quick, stop what you're doing right now. Do you see what I see? Am I seeing that right? I don't know about you, but something's off about this picture. Or maybe, I see some rectangles like a crosswalk, but these rectangles or this crosswalk seems to be almost floating in midair. Actually, I know exactly what that is. It's the future of our campus. This picture you and I are looking at is an example of a 3D crosswalk. This is the use of pavement illusions to improve road, driver, and pedestrian safety. This is a way for all of us at Wayne State University to feel safer when we cross the roads or drive around, and at the same time, they are a beautiful work of art. I'm sure that picture alone had you wondering what was going on. It's really just a regular crosswalk, but shadows are drawn all around it to make it seem like there's just some blocks floating in the middle of the road, and you won't be able to tell it's just a painting without getting close enough. Before I go on talking more about this genius idea, let me introduce my team and I. Up first, there's Tyler. He's a sophomore in medical engineering. He's also the man that presented this idea to the class and got me so hooked on the thought of making crosswalks safer on campus. He is our research leader and our team captain. Next up is Keegan. He's a sophomore in industrial engineering. He's in charge of leading collaborative efforts with Wayne State University faculty, such as the art department, to further develop plans for implementation of 3D crosswalks throughout the campus. Up next is Ramon. He's a sophomore in computer science, who's also in charge of our written deliverables. Last but not least is me. My name is Mohammed. I'm a sophomore in engineering technology, and I'm in charge of the presentations for this team. With the help of my teammates, I created the video you're watching right now. So now let's get started on why this video exists. Report presentations are an essential part of technical and professional business, and we're making this video today to discuss our topic, the 3D crosswalk. The reason we're talking about a 3D crosswalk is because we currently have an issue on our campus. The issue has been around for quite some time, and we believe it is time for change. Currently at Wayne State University, there are a ton of areas where students and pedestrians must cross the road to get to where they need to be, but it's difficult to do so with constant oncoming traffic. We currently have yield for pedestrian signs, but they're either not that noticeable or people driving by just don't seem to care. Officers are usually in the area to keep an eye for people who just pay the crosswalks no mind, but they can't stop everyone. That's why we believe the best bang for your buck would be the 3D crosswalk. We already have crosswalks. Let's just paint some shadows onto them and make it seem like they're floating in the middle of the road to make drivers more cautious, and it'll make our campus look a lot nicer. Some relative background information for this idea would be that this idea actually originated in Iceland. But let's talk about how atrocious the price tag is for all the other options. If you wanted to hire a crosswalk guard, it would cost $26,000 a year just to pay them. And that's not even for 24/7. That's just for 8 to 10 hours a day. And the price is multiplied when you hire multiple crosswalk guards for multiple areas, right? Or we can go another way and just buy streetlights that tell people when to cross and when to stop. But the thing is, it costs the taxpayer $250,000 to $500,000 to purchase and install a traffic signal. Electrical bills and routine maintenance amount to about $8,000 a year. See, look, I've only listed two options, and those things alone is enough money to buy the Pink Pearl Island in Nicaragua. As you can see, this is a beautiful island, but why spend so much money on things like that when you can literally purchase paint and pay a labor fee to people to just paint some lines on the ground? Our solution to all of this madness is to just create 3D crosswalks. They're inexpensive and they really do look nice. Our plan was to speak with the person in charge of traffic safety on campus and get their approval on this, and then speak with the head of the art department to help create the final product. So far, our plan hasn't fallen through. We created a survey online, and a lot of the fellow students here on campus have agreed that this idea would be amazing, but getting in contact with the higher-ups is very difficult. We've sent out emails concerning the matter, but they just don't seem to pay us any mind. Now that I've introduced this problem to you, I'll let my fellow team members take over. Tyler will begin the discussion portion of this presentation, followed by Keegan and concluded by Ramon. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you to Mohammed for the opening of this discourse. I'd like to start my section by quickly going over the structure of the next few minutes, of which Keegan and I will be talking. In this discussion phase of the presentation, we wish to cover 4 points, 2 of which are related to secondary research, and then we'll follow up with our primary research findings, analysis, and a conclusion. My objective with the sources we've gathered, the secondary research that is to prove the 3D crosswalk's efficacy and practicality. The secondary sources were investigated by myself. Most of this work was done in the beginnings of this project. One of these articles I actually came across before the idea of working with this 3D crosswalk proposal came into fruition. And the findings in these have been integral to giving us an argument in the way of 3D crosswalk viability. The first one I want to brief the audience on is an article from the Boston Globe titled "Can Optical Illusions Trick Drivers into Slowing Down?" by Matt Rochillo, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Quote, "Popular from New Delhi to a tiny town in Iceland, the most prevalent of these illusions are striped lines made to look like they're three-dimensional blocks floating in the middle of the road. Similarly, in London, officials have painted what looks like speed bumps even though the road is flat." The piece goes on to say that officials in Delhi recorded a 15% decrease in driver speeds at 20 of their locations where they have 3D pavement markings. The London, UK experiment with the imitated speed bumps, a series of markings that look like speed bumps. Officials call them 2D road cushions, and they were first tested in late 2014. The trial period showed average speeds reduced by 3 miles per hour 9 months after installation. A spokesman for the Transport for London, which oversees the area's transportation network, encouraged by those results, the agency expanded the effort to 45 2D road cushions as of 2017. Quote, "Even if some drivers become accustomed to 2D road cushions, if one driver slows for the 2D cushions, they will help slow all the traffic behind them." So that speaks to the issue of what happens if you put one of these 3D crosswalks in, you install it, and then after a while you have people getting used to it being there, and as a result it's not as effective. So we have some studies on that. In the U.S., experts had claimed that 3D crosswalks violate existing national roadway standards, but the agency has since granted approval for certain projects. Following an interest in testing 3D crosswalks by the Boston Transportation Department, the Boston Globe reported in a second publication that an installment in Medford, suburb of Boston, Massachusetts, at elementary schools. The city hired a local artist, and the project consumed 45 hours of labor and a half dozen cans of traffic striping paint. Since then, many cities across America are following in Medford's steps. These pieces reflect the real interest and efficacy of such an idea, and our team, Mohammed, Keegan, Ramon, and myself, also read over a 2012 graduate study on the effects of 3D pavement illusions on motorist yielding at crosswalks. Nicole Cambridge, the author, wrote on these new technologies such as the high-intensity activated crosswalk, or HAWK for short, beacon, and the rectangular rapid flash beacon, RRFB for short. Citing the high costs of this infrastructure at appropriate intersections, she researches 3D crosswalks as a cost-saving solution. The paper goes into great depths, providing quantitative evidence for both for and against the idea. A Boston Globe op-ed concluded from the Western Michigan University study that there is, in fact, evidence to support the idea, with the main concern being that its effectiveness wears over time, as we had talked about previously. So with that, I'd like to refer the audience to our final report where we have provided in great detail these sources among other articles as well. However, our team, after analyzing all the above, decided that there was in fact enough to support an investigation and proposing this at Wayne State University, considering the importance of both pedestrian safety on campus and operating within a tight budget as described on the Wayne State Parking and Transportation homepage. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and defer to Keegan now as he's set to take on our primary research findings. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tyler. As you said, I will be finishing up the discussion phase. And as he just went over the main points of secondary research that was conducted, I will be doing the same with the primary research. We were lucky enough to get an online survey out and conduct a few in-person surveys just before the COVID-19 pandemic started, and we got a shelter-in-place order. However, we were not so lucky to get to collaborate with the Wayne State Parking and Transportation Department or the Wayne State Art Department. However, we did make attempts to get in contact with both of these departments, but both times were unsuccessful, most likely due to the insane amount of chaos and rearranging that the entire university was and is still going through. Now, the biggest part of our primary research for this project was determining if the community would even want this change for crosswalks, both as drivers and as pedestrians. In order to make sure this project was worth real consideration and turning it into a legitimate proposal, we created and sent out a survey that would help us gauge the interest of our stakeholders. Two main questions that we were concerned about were as follows. A, would you like to see 3D crosswalks implemented in and around Wayne State's campus? And B, would a 3D crosswalk draw your attention to the road and or the pedestrians crossing it if you were driving? So we then sent this survey out on Academica so that as many people that were willing to fill it out would fill it out. However, we only had it out for a day or two before Wayne officially announced that they were extending spring break for a week to allow professors to adjust their classes for an online and isolated environment that we would actually end up being in for the rest of the summer and all of next semester, the summer semester. So because of this, we actually sent this out, the survey we sent out the week before spring break and then the week of the announcement, so the week right after we got the email. So we sent it out twice, but we still only managed to get 69 responses just because of, well, the chaos. So even in these 69 responses, we saw that there was an exceptionally high approval of 3D crosswalks. Approximately 92% of all of the survey takers said they would like to see 3D crosswalks implemented in and around campus, with 89% of those people also saying 3D crosswalks would indeed draw their attention if they were driving over them. Since we got a relatively promising response from those that took our survey, we decided that it would be a good idea to contact the departments that would potentially be involved in the implementation of 3D crosswalks around campus. So the two departments that we had in mind and that we wanted to talk to were the Wayne State Parking and Transportation Department and the Wayne State Art Department. Our main goal in getting in touch with the Parking and Transportation Department was to figure out if there was any specific legislation that would nullify the option of a 3D crosswalk. Because we read, as Tyler spoke about in some of those secondary research, that certain locations were actually denying 3D crosswalks. So we wanted to talk to them about that. And then in addition to this, we also wanted to know if there was something that the university would be willing to adopt. So would the university as a whole be willing to actually implement 3D crosswalks? Now, the biggest aspect of the concept of a 3D crosswalk was that it's very minimalistic. Like, it does not require any additional infrastructure And also, it is incredibly affordable, with basically all of the cost coming from designing and then painting that design. So what's actually really interesting is that last part, designing and painting the design, is pretty neat because Wayne State has its own art department, which is fully capable of both of those aspects. So that was our idea with getting in contact with the art department, was to discuss the idea of actually providing the labor in the design team from inside of the university so that no outsourcing would need to be done on any side. We made attempts to get in contact with both of the departments, but none of them were fruitful. And I believe it's a fair assumption to say that 3D crosswalks are not exactly high up on the list of things that Wayne's faculty needed or wanted to think about in this incredibly chaotic time. So although we weren't able to conduct as much primary research as we would have liked to, the research that we were able to conduct showed us that there was a genuine interest for the implementation of 3D crosswalks throughout campus. Now, if I may bring you back to what Tyler ended on just before I started talking, there is a special importance, especially like on Wayne's campus, with a massive pedestrian culture. There's real importance on the safety of those pedestrians. And what we've created here is a genuine proposal for the implementation of those 3D crosswalks that will fit in however tight the budget is that Wayne's Parking and Transportation Department has set for them. Now I'm going to pass the torch on to Ramon, and he's going to be wrapping this up for us. Thanks.
Thanks, Keegan. As he said, I will be wrapping up our presentation. Like Mohammed said earlier, this could very well be a future for Wayne State campus. This could also possibly end up being a future for Detroit City as a whole. Mohammed talked about the infrastructure of implementing and maintaining streetlights and walk signs. They cost quite a bit. How implementing them was like around $250,000 to $500,000, and the maintenance was around $8,000, like yearly. That's quite a bit of money that the city is spending just for these streetlights. Our idea is 3D paint, something that pops out to the people, that gets their attention, that doesn't cost a whole lot because it's just paint. Tyler talked about the secondary research that we gathered, how it has clearly proven that these pavement markings do have an effect on drivers, how it makes them think twice about their actions while driving, making them slow down. These reduced speeds mean that you will have less car accidents in the city. This research shows that they have tried this in many other places, states, countries, that it just works, that it's something that you should look into and probably try to implement in many different places just to see how it works out. Keegan also went over our primary research, talked about our survey that we had online, how the students of Wayne State have flocked to this idea, how it has sparked an interest in their heads. They love the idea of 3D paint being on the campus, how it looks, the idea behind it. They love the idea. They think that it will reduce car accidents. They believe that it will keep other students like themselves safer on campus while walking across streets. This could also go out to the city of Detroit. It will reduce the number of car accidents. It'll make the city of Detroit look better. more creative, bring more beauty to the city or our campus. It'll also save the city of Detroit a lot of money. They already spend a lot on these street lights and traffic signals, that they could look into this idea so that they could use this money, this excess money that they have now, on other things to better the city. But anyway, thank you for listening to our presentation. Hopefully this idea reaches out to people and maybe it will become a reality for Wayne State campus and or Detroit City as a whole.